We're with Doug O'Malley of Environment New Jersey in the State House. Doug, before we get started on some of the issues, can you tell us a little bit about Environment New Jersey, and maybe since people are probably more aware of things like the Sierra Club, where you might overlap, where you might have a unique niche?
Sure. So first off, just a little bit on Environment New Jersey's reach. We have over 20,000 citizen members across the state. We're based in New Brunswick and in Trenton. And really our mission is quite simple. We want to be able to advocate and protect our state's air, water, and open spaces, and increasingly working to advocate for more clean energy in the state and combat global warming pollution. And I think one of the things that makes us unique is that we both have citizen members that allow us to have a voice in Trenton and allow us to lobby unfettered our elected officials, including the governor, and to be able to tell, Chris Christie, or really any governor, to jump in a lake or veto a bill.
And how is your organization funded?
Well, that gets exactly at our funding source. Our funding primarily comes from our citizen members, especially for our political arm, Environment New Jersey. So without the support of average people who support us online and support us on the doorstep when we knock on their door all throughout the year, we would not be able to do this work. Environment New Jersey Research and Policy Center does hard-hitting research and education. That work is supported through foundations, but we cannot publicly advocate through that arm.
For the time being, ignoring the fact that we have a governor who probably isn't the most friendly toward the environment, what would you say are the top 2 or 3 priorities for the environment in New Jersey?
I think really one of the top priorities for not only for our organization, but really for all groups in the state is figuring out what we're doing to tackle climate change and what we're doing to increase clean energy and fight back against bad energy projects. I think global warming and climate change were, quite honestly, maybe a niche issue, 5 or 6 years ago. And increasingly now, I think every environmental group in the state, has to deal with this because we're increasingly seeing, bad fossil fuel projects infiltrate every part of New Jersey.
Along those lines, this morning we sat through a Senate Energy and Environment Committee hearing on the Renewable Portfolio Standard. Can you explain what that is and what occurred at that hearing?
Sure. So the Senate Environment Committee has been grappling with this issue of how we actually increase clean energy here in the state. And going back, now, about 15 years, New Jersey had one of the, first and strongest renewable portfolio standards to get more than 20% of our energy from clean renewable sources by 2020. And the question, of course, comes, what else do we need to do? New Jersey also passed the Global Warming Response Act 8 years ago under Governor Corzine that mandated reductions in carbon pollution of 80% by 2050. But that was only a goal. There was no roadmap on how to get there. And what Senator Smith is really wrestling with is how is New Jersey going to get there? The initial bill that was heard in October had clear benchmarks for both solar and wind. The debate that happened today was more focused on an overall goal and benchmarks as opposed to how we're going to reach those benchmarks.
Another area that your organization is involved in is looking at some of the proposals to build pipelines through some areas of New Jersey. The pipeline proponents say that this is a better way to do things because it eliminates moving things by train, which is very dangerous. How does your organization stand on pipelines?
I mean, really, pipelines are, first off, pipelines are a conduit, and pipelines are a false argument that the way we're going to, combat global warming is by doubling down on another fossil fuel. And the pipeline argument is really bringing home the climate conundrum to every part of the state because, pipelines have huge environmental impacts, and they're also going to be locking us into fossil fuels for a generation. And that's really why we see natural gas and fracking and the pipeline infrastructure not as a bridge to the future, but as Bill McKibben says, as a gangplank.
And One of the areas, moving away from fuels and energy for a minute, one of the areas that your organization is also concerned about is the population of bumblebees. Can you explain what's going on there and what you're advocating?
Sure. Really, our concern on bees and the bee die-off that we saw over 8 years ago is that this was kind of a whodunit. Why were bees dying and what was their impact? And increasingly what we're seeing is that pesticide use, especially pesticides sold by some of the largest multinational companies out there, like Monsanto, is being directly linked to the bee die-off. And our concern is clearly pesticides have a huge impact on the environment anyway, with their impact on our water supplies. Bees are an incredibly important part of our ecosystem, and the EPA actually has a hook to be able to address the pesticides that are being used and to be able to put stringent protections and even ban some of the most deadly form of pesticides out there. And this is I think an argument that most people would say we need to be able to protect our ecosystem and we need to be able to protect bees. We want to educate more people that there is actually a solution out there and EPA has the ability to take action.
How can we influence big foreign polluters like China when we're even having trouble doing that within the U.S.?
I think we hear that argument again and again and again, that we can't do anything because China is the largest problem and increasingly is becoming the largest emitter. And quite frankly, that's an abdication of our responsibility. And the Obama administration has been able to create really a landmark agreement with China to act. And quite frankly, we need to continue the action we've seen on the national level through the Obama administration, because there's a huge climate conference coming up in Paris in December. And if we're able to say that the U.S. is a leader, it's going to bring other countries along with us, and it's going to make that compact with China matter in a worldwide compact.
One of the things we saw this morning at the hearing was two groups of students who had come in to testify about various issues. Do you see a generational change coming with attitudes toward climate change and the environment?
Very much so. 8 years ago we did a Earth Day essay contest, and we had entries from as young as first graders talking about global warming and the impact of climate change. Increasingly, this generation, the millennial generation, sees climate change as their issue, because quite frankly, it's their world that's going to be irreparably harmed in 2050, 2060, 2070, 2080. And that's really what this fight is about. And increasingly, among millennials, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat, you believe in climate change, you believe it's happening, and you believe that we need to take action to solve it. So in the same way that we've seen action in other progressive fights, climate change increasingly is going to become one where you're either on the right side of the fence or one where you're kind of left in history's dustbin.
With a Republican Congress and a governor who's not too friendly toward the environment, what can the average citizen do if they want to get involved in ensuring a clean environment?
Sure. I think this is one of the great challenges is you look at Chris Christie and you say, well, what can we do? And I think it's really important to know that Chris Christie is not going to be our governor for life. Actually, there's a little over 2 years left in his term. And the legislature actually can do a lot, both with the bill that Senator Smith is working on to increase clean energy here in the state, as well as to push more energy efficiency. And really what I kind of tell the average person, especially someone who is connected with Blue Jersey, is don't discount the importance of speaking to your state legislator, whether a Democrat or Republican, saying that this issue is something that you care about and that you expect them to act. Because the legislature works best when, well, they think they work best when no one's paying attention. We know that the more public scrutiny there is for legislative actions, that we actually can get more and better progressive policies passed here in Trenton.
Finally, if somebody wants to get involved with Environment New Jersey, how do they do that?
Oh, that's the best question ever. The easiest way, of course, is to join our email list. That's off our website, environmentnewjersey.org. But really, quite frankly, if someone really wants to get engaged, they should reach out to us directly. You should reach out to me. My email address is domalley, D-O-M-A-L-L-E-Y, at Environment New Jersey, all spelled out, including newjersey.org. And we have a ton of projects that people can help us with, usually advocating on the local level and doing citizen organizing. We need more help and more people helping out there, even if it's just to kind of let us know what their legislator tells them when they reach out to them.
Doug O'Malley, thank you very much.